And that means that the skill level in Formula E is pretty low, knowing that Nick de Vries managed to win a championship, and he was a shitter in Formula 1. Formula 1 is even more boring than it was last year, and I don't understand how that's possible, knowing that Red Bull and Verstappen, and slightly Perez, won literally 99% of all the races. But I guess with all that copium that I've been taking, let's talk about some different racing series that are a bit more entertaining currently. The idiot right here is going to explain every single racing category, well not every single one, but like, you know, the main racing categories to you guys. Anyway, let me know what you thought down in the comments of Formula 1 in its current state. Like and subscribe whilst you're down there, and enjoy the video. Enjoy the video. So let's start with our beloved sport, the one that everyone hates at the moment, except for Max Verstappen because he's winning every single race. Boring! Yeah, Formula 1. There's 10 teams, 20 drivers, usually owned by some rich fuckers, including Lawrence Stroll, and drivers are mostly talented, except for Lance Stroll, who is Lawrence Stroll's son, races for his team. I guess that's kind of pay to win. There's obviously some rules and regulations which change every couple years, with a huge overall change of rules every couple years, and just regulation changes in between each year just to balance the field out slightly. But that's clearly not happening with all of the dominance that have been happening in the recent couple years. But as long as you're within the whole rules and regulations, there's a budget of 125 million per year, which you have to stick to. And if not, you'll be fined. This year, there's 24 races. There's street races, there's normal races, but street races have slowly been taking over, which isn't the greatest thing because there's very little overtaking and makes the sport even more boringer than it already is. On Fridays, usually there's free practice 1 and free practice 2, both an hour long. On Saturday mornings, there's free practice 3, and then on later the same day, there's quali. In Q1, the slowest 5 drivers get eliminated, Q2, the same thing, and then Q3, there's the 10 drivers who are the fastest, and they battle for pole position. No points given for pole because it's Formula 1. And then, of course, you have the race. Winner wins the race, P20 loses the race. Points awarded for fastest lap if you're in the top 10, and the top 10 score points. If you're Verstappen, you're scoring points every week, but if you're like a Logan Sargent, you'll be happy when there's 2 disqualifications, and then you can score a point off track, knowing that you've scored a point literally 2 hours after the race. There's also 6 sprints this year. That means there's 1 practice session, there's 2 qualifyings, and there's a sprint, and obviously the race. And it's pretty obvious whoever scores the most points throughout the whole season wins the championship. Next up, we have Formula 2 and Formula 3, which arguably are way more exciting and entertaining than Formula 1 in the recent couple seasons. Because the racing is actually close, there's something interesting going on, and there's going to be a title battle literally every year. Because rookies are rookies, or not rookies, but junior drivers are junior drivers, and they crash out a lot, meaning that multiple people are in the title fight in the race of the last season. You know what I'm trying to say? In Formula 2, there's 11 teams, and that makes 22 drivers, 2 drivers per team as per usual. Some drivers are obviously sponsored or backed by different Formula 1 teams, in hopes of them getting to Formula 1. All of the cars are the same, the only thing that's different is the mechanics, the drivers, the teams, and the setups. And that's it. Pretty even playing field, and that's why it's all similar, because similar playing field. Unless you're top team, like Prema, or versing like a shitter team, there's obviously going to be a difference in everything. There's free practice, which is like an hour long, and quali, there's only 1 quali and it's just half an hour. Fastest time gets pole position and the slowest time gets fucking P22. Into the sprint race, the top 10 in quali is reversed. Whoever qualified 10th is first. Well done, you're first, but yeah. And this is in hopes of the person who's first proving to better teams in Formula 1 that yes, you can qualify well, but you can also overtake and be good. Just like Behrman did in Baku 2023. Qualified P1, started P10 in the sprint race, won the sprint race. Then he started first in the feature race, because that's what you do, it's just normal quali, like the normal qualifying order, and he won the race as well. So, perfect weekend from him. There's 14 races in Formula 2, and the only thing that's different between Formula 2 and Formula 3 is that Formula 3 is obviously going to be a bit slower, drivers are going to be even younger than Formula 2, and there's just a lot less races. Like 10 races to be exact. There's also 30 drivers, which makes it more of a scramble, easier to be killed by someone else, which makes it all the more exciting for viewers, which is why I'm saying the fucking Formula 2 and Formula 3 are way more entertaining than Formula 1. Taking a break from open wheelers, just like Logan Sargent should probably take a break from racing in general, because clearly he isn't cut out for it now, is he? Let's talk about WEC, or World Endurance Championship. Now recently, I think this has been literally taking over all of the news articles because I don't know why, but it's getting like pretty big. By the name, these aren't just little sprints of races, just like in Formula 1, Formula 2. 2 hours long, yeah. WEC, World Endurance Long Races Championship. Each race, or not each race, but the races vary from 6 hours to 24 hours. Most notably, the 24 hours of Le Mans is obviously on the calendar. Speaking of the calendar, there's 8 races in total throughout the whole season. There are 3 classes which compete in this championship. There's Hypercar, LMP2, and GTE AM, Amateur. There's obviously free practice 1, 2, and 3, and then each class has their separate qualifying, which lasts 12 minutes, and the top 10 from each class gets sent to the Hyper Pole. Yeah, weird name, but like the top 10, and then the order gets decided, and then that's how they start on the grid of the race. Each team has 3 drivers which have to change around of the car, because yeah, obviously a driver isn't going to be driving for 24 hours straight. They have to change around, and there's 3 drivers to do that. 3 drivers maximum, that is. And because there's 3 classes, you have to overtake different classes. Of course, the Hypercar is going to be the fastest, then LMP2, and then the glorified saloon, or not saloon, but just sports cars, they're obviously going to be the slowest, the GTE Amateurs. Of course, the person who finishes first wins the race of each class, and of course, then at the end of the season, whoever has the most points wins. And to get some British bias into here, let's talk about the British GT Championship. The cars that race there are GT3 cars and GT4 cars. GT3 obviously being faster than GT4, but all of them, they're just glorified sports cars. Just put on a couple wings, a couple downforcey bits, better engines, better everything. Just glorified road cars. That's all they are. There's obviously a couple minor rules, just handicapping some teams to not be just overly better than others, and just like making the weight of the cars even, power of the cars, the distribution, all even in the classes, of course. Each driver is graded either silver, bronze, gold, however good they are, that's you know, their rating. There's a couple different championship classifications which you can win in this series. You can win the overall drivers, you can win the Pro-Am, the Silver Am, and the teams. Obviously, you can do that in GT3 and GT4. Races lasting 1 hour are just, you know, normal points, 25 for the win, and just keeps on going down. But races which are 2 to 3 hours long, points are just, they're more points. 25 points for the win in a 1 hour race, and 37.5 for a longer race for the win. There's 2 free practice sessions, both lasting an hour, which everyone can drive in, test everything out, test the waters, see where you're going to bin it and where you're not. For some drivers, it might be more corners than others, but yeah. Then there's GT3 qualifying 1, which amateurs must compete in, GT3 qualifying 2, both 10 minutes long, and then the same for GT4 cars. Same thing. And then on day 2, there's a 15-minute warm-up. There's a race that either lasts an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, depending on the race. And on only 2 different tracks, there's another race, which lasts 60 minutes. Of course, each team has to have a mandatory pit stop, but that's, I guess, pretty much all for anyone who follows racing. This year, there's 9 rounds. In some tracks, they race twice. So round 1 and round 2, for example, are both in Alton Park. And, well, there's 9 rounds. Whoever scores the most points, of course, wins each championship. Pretty obvious, pretty obvious.
Well, obviously,
I'm gonna keep this all brief and very short. Let's talk about NASCAR. Turn left, go straight.
I'm gonna drive and I'm gonna go fast and I'm gonna turn to the left sometimes.
Turn left again. Do it like 1,000 times and try to be the fastest at it. If you're not, then wall ride, go around the corner, although it's illegal now, and just win the race. Try not to get tangled up in any incidents. Don't get crashed out. Don't bin it. Don't be a nuisance. And you'll survive. Unless you're Vin Diesel, or not Vin Diesel's, or Dominic Toretto's dad, and he died. Unfortunate, but it's a story. So who actually cares? That's it for NASCAR. We salute you, America. Let's take a slight break from talking about motor cars and talk about motorbikes, because let's talk about Moto GP. How does that actually work? There's 21 races this season, 40 minutes to 45 minutes long, depending on how long the circuit is. Usually around 100 to 130 kilometers will be driven in that time. There's 2 practice sessions, and practice in most series is kind of useless. You just do it and that's it. If you're shit, you're shit. Oh well, but in MotoGP it's kind of different. You see, the top 10 combining the 2 sessions move on to qualifying 2, and the rest go to Q1. The top 2 from Q1 move to Q2. So there's 12 drivers all together in Q2. And then obviously they have a brawl in Q2 and, well, the fastest lap times in order determine the race for Saturday's and Sunday's race. Yes, they're 2 races. Entertaining. There's 22 riders and 7 manufacturers, and on the grids they line up in 3, not 2, like pretty much any other sport. The motorbikes have 240 brake horsepower, and as per usual, the person who finishes first wins. Yay! You won. Wow. And whoever has the most points at the end of the championship, of course, wins. Valentino Rossi, you've done that a couple times, haven't you? I guess some Americans might be a tiny bit pissed because my brief explanation about NASCAR, to put it slightly. But let's talk about Indycar, another American series, so you can be happy that I included Indycar on like a serious note. Indycar races on speedways, ovals, street circuits, and normal racetracks. There's a point awarded for the fastest lap, a point awarded if you lead at least 1 lap, and 2 points awarded for the person who leads most laps. When there's a road/street race, there's 2 qualifyings. There's 2 quali groups. They both get 10 minutes to set the fastest lap they can, and the top 6 from each advance into the next qualifying. So now there's 12 drivers in segment 2, and the top 6 from that move on to the final part of qualifying, which has a weird name. The Firestone Fast 6 and the top 6 quali. P1 gets pole, so on and so forth. You get it now. Around a big fat oval, quali is kind of different. They start off in reverse championship order, and they get 2 laps to set the fastest lap time they can. The fastest obviously gets pole, and the slowest is at the bottom. There's 18 races, and the winner wins the race, the loser loses the race. Whoever has the most points at the end of the championship wins. Kind of obvious. Surely you get it by now. And finally, let's talk about Formula E. There are 2 30-minute practice sessions unless there's a double header, and then there's just 1. There's 22 drivers, and there's 2 quali group stages, meaning that there's 11 drivers in each. They try to set their fastest time, and the top 4 from each group advances. So the 1v1ing stage, just like, you 1v1 in Fortnite, build battle, something like that, but it's,
Shit on! Get shit on! Shut the fuck up! 1v1 you pussy!
whoever can set the fastest lap compared to the other one. So 1v1. Actually quite fun to watch. Of course, then whoever wins the final 1v1, they get pole, and then they race around the track as they usually do. Circuits are usually small and twisty, not, normal tracks, just road circuits, small and twisty, like Monaco. Everywhere's like another Monaco. If there's a safety car, then additional laps get added on, more racing. I actually would like to see that implemented into Formula 1. That would be a bit cooler. And there's this thing called attack mode, which means that if they go off the racing line and compromise their line into the next corner, then they get extra power in their car, extra energy, which means they can go a tiny bit faster, compromising their line, of course. And as per usual, winner wins. Whoever has the most points at the end of the season wins the championship. Hippity hippity hooray, Nick de Vries has done it. And that means that the skill level in Formula E is pretty low, knowing that Nick de Vries managed to win a championship. And he was a shitter in Formula 1. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you thought down in the comments, and which format of racing do you guys like the most? Put it down in the comments, and while you're there, subscribe, like, and have a good day. Peace.